For those who may not know, I'm Jim Cerny, a Vice President of STUG, and I host the help desk every month from 6:30 to 7, a half hour before our regular meeting begins. And I received two emails with questions, which I'd like to throw out, even though I think the people are not attending that have asked the questions. I won't mention anybody's name because we're being recorded. But a gentleman asked, he was having update problems with a Windows update, and he specifically mentioned update 24H2. And things were being changed on his screen without his knowledge or consent. You know, things were being rearranged or moved, and he didn't know if anybody else had issues with that particular update of Windows 11. Moving things around, changing the size of, I guess, icons or fonts. He said it was very disruptive for him. Has anybody experienced any change with Windows updates?
Well, that particular update is a very large update and does a lot of things to your computer. I'm not surprised that somebody has had, an issue. I went through, I don't know what the Windows update was, but I have to go through and possibly undo an update on my Windows computer. I lost the sheen. My screen is not sharp anymore. Something happened to the video.
I think that brings a very good point up. Do most people sign up for automatic updates? In other words, telling your computer, yeah, give me the update whenever the update's ready, without intervention, or do most of you prefer to be notified that there is an update available and then to consent to download the update?
My computer notifies me that there's an update ready to go, or it's ready to be rebooted. But before I let my computer reboot or do anything, I do a new restore point. I create a new restore point prior to letting Windows Update reboot my computer and do their installs. That way, if anything goes wrong, I can reverse it.
Very good. That was my next area of following up on this. Doing a restore point before any significant update. And so I think, Drew, what you're saying is it's nice to be notified in advance that an update is coming or that is available, and then you consent to download the update after you do a restore point. Anybody else have any comments on that issue?
Yeah, well,
Jim,
24H2 has been out a while, so whether he just got the 24H2 or whether he got an update to the 24H2 that he had, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how long you had it.
Jim,
Yeah.
I'm the one that submitted the question.
Okay.
And I think Huey is right. It was probably an update to that particular one. And as late as this morning, when I logged on, it treated me like I was a new user. None of my settings were like they should have been. I had to go in and reset all the accessibility, all the personalization settings, as well as a bunch of the others. So I'm concerned now that if I go in and make corrections to each one of the settings, that they're not holding or anything. From the time I log off of it to the time I log back in, it resets itself back to like, okay, welcome to Windows. And that's a big problem because it takes a bit of time to go back and reset all the individual things.
So Philip,
And
every
so I'm
time
just
you
wondering
log off, it resets?
Right?
Every time you
I
log
log
off,
off.
it resets?
Yes, I log off. I logged
Ouch.
off last night, and then when I logged back on this morning, it gave me the welcome to Windows, and it tried to take me through all the wonderful features that Windows can do for me before I short-circuited that and went straight into getting to Edge and trying to get started on the day. But not all of the things that are pinned to the taskbar are coming on either. Even the settings icon doesn't come on the taskbar when I re-log in. So I'm just wondering, and it all occurred back the first week of February when they did that update to 24H2.
Mm.
It doesn't appear like anybody else mentioned that they're having similar issues. Is that correct? Or does somebody have some issues with that update? Well, we're real sorry for you, Philip.
You might
I'm
you might
sorry.
want to do a search asking if other people are having trouble with an update and kind of explain what it is and see if something pops up. And then when you do a search in Google, for instance, if you hit tools, one of the tools is I forgot what it's called. Is it date? Anyway, you can tell it in the last month, and it'll only give you answers to things from the last month or the last week, and see if there's any other people who have had the same problem recently.
That's a good point. I'll have to look into that one.
I had an issue a couple of months ago, and it turned out it was a faulty Intel chip. And there was a series of Intel chips that were bad. And sometimes it would create a problem, and I couldn't do anything. They sent new memory thinking it was memory, and it wasn't. So Dell then sent a CPU and somebody to put it in for me.
So
So
was this a machine you'd been using successfully for a while, and then an
I've
update
had
caused it to?
yeah, I got it in March.
Hmm.
So it's not that old, but the Intel chips that were being produced at that time had a flaw in them that was a known flaw, and if you had a problem, they had to swap out and get a newer version of the Intel chip.
So
Well,
Huey,
my
I know time
situation,
moves faster for us gray hairs, but March was almost a year ago, my friend.
Yeah.
no, my machine though is a couple of years old, and this is the very first
Yeah.
time I've had
Yeah, that
any
that
kind
shouldn't
of.
be the problem then. Hi, Judy, you have your hand up.
Yes, I do. Can you go back a version if you're having
Haven't
problems?
tried that yet, but I've gone through various resets. Like for example,
I'd Google that question if I were you. I'm not a 11 fan. I'm hanging on till the bitter end. But I'd Google and say, how do I go back one version?
yeah. Well, I should mention also that I was up until a couple of days ago, a week ago or so, I was running Windows 11 Home, and I upgraded to Windows 11 Pro, thinking that might fix the problem, but it didn't. Same set of problems exist in the Pro version as did in the Home version.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for a really tough question because we couldn't answer it really. And thank you, Al, for your advice and for Philip to try. I had another email from a lady who wanted to know basically the security that she should be using on her Windows PC. She was paying for Bitdefender, and her question was, should I renew Bitdefender or keep it? And my response to her was that I have always used the free Windows security that came with Windows, and I see nothing wrong with that, and that I would not recommend paying money for a security system unless you have a reason to do so. Let me see if this person's here in attendance. I don't think so. No. But for the record, does anybody have advice of paying for a security system on a monthly or annual basis versus using Windows Defender that comes free with Windows?
Well, I have a couple of points of view on it. One is I visit a lot of places on the internet, and sometimes you go to a place that redirects you to another place without your asking it to, and you can click on a link on a website and go and get redirected someplace where you didn't know you were getting redirected to. And if you don't have the correct protection, you can get caught. Windows Defender doesn't catch absolutely everything. Sometimes it's good to have a third-party product. And later on this year, when Microsoft stops updating the free, the Windows that you have now, people might want to get either a free antivirus that's third-party. I use Avast free antivirus on my computers. I don't use the paid version. But I do supplement Windows antivirus with Avast antivirus, and it catches things that Microsoft doesn't.
Drew, I mean, you said Avast is free. I understood, maybe it's not correct anymore, but you could only run one antivirus application on your system. If you try to run two at the same time, it doesn't work.
On Windows 11, I don't have, I think what happens is when you install Avast, it may make some modifications to Windows and suppress, I think, for example, if something needs to get let through the firewall, Avast has its own firewall that takes the place of the Windows firewall, I think. I'm not 100% certain. But it doesn't interfere with my computer in any way by having Avast on there.
Okay, I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think if you pay for a virus protection package, it kicks off or turns off the Windows by default, and then you're using your paid package. When you delete your paid package, in order that you're not going to be exposed, Windows Defender jumps right in without you having to do anything and covers your rear end. Is that the experience other people have had?
Yeah, Jim, I use Norton as my paid antivirus, and Windows Security runs happily right beside it.
Right beside it. Okay.
Yeah, they both are in effect all the time. But I have another suggestion. I do a lot of my browsing in the Sandbox, which is a fantastically safe place to do anything if you have any sort of doubt. Is everyone familiar with the Windows 11 Sandbox?
Windows 11 Sandbox. No, I've never heard of it. Please enlighten us.
If you look in your taskbar, it's usually a little square kind of tilted towards you. And it opens up a separate environment within your computer, and it's isolated. So you can install software in it to test software installations, and when you close it, it's gone.
But Dave, are you running the Pro or the home version?
I do have the Pro. Maybe it may be only available in the Pro.
Yeah, that's right. If you have the home
Okay.
version, virtual box in order for it to work.
Yeah,
That's why I've never heard
You have
of
to
it.
type on all the virtual hyper stuff too.
And you said you said there's something on the taskbar. It probably is there is because you have run it or have signed up for it or done something, but it would not normally be there unless you do something to tell it to put it in the taskbar.
Actually, it was one of the default icons that was in this taskbar that I despise in Windows 11. But yeah, I recommend doing anything you need to. And Steve can maybe clarify a better way. But I love having the Sandbox.
That's what I use it for too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a safe space to go do anything you want, and it can't get through and get back to your machine and do any permanent damage.
Okay, great. I didn't hear about that. That's good news.
I just did a quick search on the internet, and you have to have Pro or Enterprise to get Sandbox.
For education.
Or you have to have VirtualBox running. The Oracle virtual.
Yeah, that's a different product. We're
Yeah, I
talking on
know.
Microsoft.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you can still set up a sandbox the same way. Just that
Yes.
with the Windows one, it's already a basic one configured and you just start it up and that's it.
Jim
Um,
McIntyre has his hand up.
Okay. I just
Go
want
ahead.
to ask if Xfinity asked me to replace my password, would that make you suspicious that something's going on that shouldn't be?
Yes.
Yes.
Suspicious. I don't know whether there's a problem with it or not, but I would not click anything if it was an email you got from them.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
I would not click on anything in that email. I would go sign into your account with Xfinity and then see if something pops up, and if it doesn't, just forget about it.
mhm.
Okay, thank you.
That's a
Do
good
not
point.
click. Do not click on anything in that email.
It's a good point,
Yeah.
Huey. I just yesterday got a notice that some app was going to go to two-level security. In other words, not just a password anymore. They were going to have the second level of security to be a phone call or text message to my phone, and I would have to enter a code. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of skittish about that. Is it really from them or not? And I think it is, but it's you have
Well,
to be careful, and that's all I'm saying.
that's what you're describing is activating two-factor authentication, and you don't want to get somebody scamming you into activating it so that they have access to your two-factor authentication and not you.
Mhm.
So if you're going to set up two-factor because it's not turned on, go to that website directly, log into your account and turn it on. Don't click on links.
Ever.
Yeah, that's good advice. I've gotten this particular email said, we've sent you two previous emails telling you we're going to do this. The date that it's going to happen is March, whatever. And by then you need to have confirmed your two-level identification process. And instead of clicking anything in the email, I agree with the comment, go to the source, the app or the website of the company that you've been dealing with and go through your own account if you already have an account with them, or even if you have to call them up and try to talk to a person, which can be a real challenge.
One quick way to see if there's a problem is to look at the address of the person that sent you the email. There's often something suspicious in the address.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and one thing, if you turn on two-factor authentication, sometimes you'll get an email from them, and they'll tell you got one coming, and so you have to click on something, and that verifies your email address. So you don't just discount it if you're in the process of turning on the two-factor authentication or if you're using it.
And if you are searching for it on the internet, be very careful with the first result that comes up. Bob G preaches, it might be a bogus one. So check it out carefully and see if there's some others down below that, oh gosh, gee, they look like they come from the real company too.
Judy,
So
I can't
I always say
emphasize
stop
that.
and smell the roses.
Judy, I can't emphasize that more, but whenever I do a search, I have really noticed that the first 1, 2, 3, 4, or even 5 are all paid for ads.
Mhm.
And if you click on them, you're going through another source to find whatever it is you're looking for. And they love to find out, that you're available. And I agree. Go down the list and look for the web address that you'd be clicking on to link to, and make sure it looks like a real
Right.
valid company name, that you're not linking to geewhizIcanhelpyou.com, but you're actually going to bankofamerica.com, for example, something like that. So
And you need to hover. over the address and see what pops up all the way down here someplace, and just make sure there's not things hidden. It's not
I
a
think
fast,
you-
not a fast process anymore. We just can't go boom, boom, click, click. We have to stop and think about everything we do.
Yes.
George Bowden has his hand up.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we have a question from Vincana Godet. Is that the one you were referring to, Huey?
No,
George Bowden.
Anna, go ahead.
George.
George,
Yeah,
up
okay.
I'm sorry, it's up in the
That
corner.
email from Google, I think a lot of people got it. I think is a legit email, but they're talking about two-factor authentication on apps that are, I mean, they say I use some of those functions, but I'm not aware of using them, and they don't list, unfortunately, the functions, but they do say that the regular Google apps are not affected by them. So I think it's a legit heads up. But yeah, I agree. Don't click on anything in the link. Go to your account and try to figure out what apps you're using that need the two-factor.
I didn't receive that, and I have several Google things that are in my
Well,
name.
you may not be using apps that require that two-factor authentication.
But again, I would be suspicious of that.
Yes.
Anybody else get it? Because I'm pretty sure a
Me.
lot of people got it.
Every time I log
Yeah.
on to Google, I can't stand it because I have to it wants to know my passkey, choose my passkey or my password, or use my cell phone. They're trying to tie it into my cell phone, and that really angers me. You know,
But those
whatever
are all
happened to
safety.
just
Those are all
too
safety.
much.
Those are
My
all
sons
safety.
give me a hard time.
That's what two-factor authentication is all about.
I don't even know what a passkey is, though.
Well, at one time, they said as of X date, everybody's going to have to do it. And then that didn't happen. They also said that the S on HTTPS really doesn't mean anything anymore because you can break into encrypted websites. And they said, we're going to take the S off. That didn't happen either. So they make these big announcements. And when it popped up and said, do you want to do, 2FA or whatever it was, I just said no, and I've never been bothered again. That's why you need to stop and smell the roses and just not automatically click.
Next year, we'll have three-factor identification. They'll never stop because they'll find ways around it.
I'm sorry.
I think we have time for one more question. I think,
Kathy has her hand raised.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't put it down. I just commented. I will say I get it for banks and financial institutions, but Google, it's a pain in the neck to me.
Yeah. Well, that's a Google search question. And when I search with a full sentence. I told my students, the important words, and I don't do that. If I were to ask Kathy Montgomery a question, I would type that exactly in my search box for a Google question. And I say, you pick out what is important to you and send me an answer. So ask how you can stop that.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah, I'm a Google user for many things and I enjoy it. I think it has helped a great deal. I'm glad to do it. But I agree with you that it used to be once you logged in, it was so simple. You log in with your email address, your Gmail address, and you're good to go. It wasn't any problem. But now this multiple authentication is the wave of the future. Are there maybe one more quick question? Anybody?
Hey,
Jean
I
has
have
her
a
hand
thought.
up.
Margaret.
Sorry, go
Jean
ahead.
has
Margaret Jean.
yeah, I was going to say, first of all, for me, the passcode is I have it on my desktop. I use my desktop and people do come in and use it to print from. So I go ahead and have a passkey so they can't get into my ID. So my machine's available for them to print, but they can't go to something else. The point is the passcode's the same thing. I just set it up and have it. And it's a real simple 4-digit code I remember. And that or my phone. I think the dual authentication is important, and I use it on Google, and I don't have any problem with it. It does take two, but it's helpful sometimes when I get into trouble. And like sometime, I don't know how, but my Gmail password got changed, but it was still working on my phone. So I was able to use my phone and to actually get the change. So, and then of course, then it propagates on my accounts, which are important. But the point was, is that if I didn't have that, it would have been a little more challenging. So I do like the dual authentication, and I don't mind the extra step, you know, as long as you make it simple. So that's it. Thanks.
Yep,
Yeah, I guess
thanks.
personally, I
ask
don't
a-
care if they have two-level
May I ask a
authentication.
quick question?
If
Or are we
I have
done?
a problem, I would like to talk to a person. And they just don't do that. All of these places, they don't want to talk to you. Anybody else have a
Isaac,
question?
Isaac has his hand raised.
Isaac,
Yeah, I've recently, or actually for a while, been getting messages to say, don't require 6-digit code on this computer, and I check the box, and it never works. I always get asked for another form of authentication, even though I check the box saying it's my computer, it's private, no one else uses it. So I guess it's a waste of time trying to stop that from happening.
and on the shoe on the other foot, these companies, they send you an email with some demand or request or a form to fill out or a feedback survey, and their email is non-replyable. You cannot send an email back to them. It's a one-way communication to get you. So be wary of any emails. If you look in the fine print, it'll say near the top, no reply.
Mhm.
If that's the case and it's a company you do want to send something to, go to their homepage and go all the way to the bottom, and there's usually a contact us, and there's usually an email address that you can send to support at or whatever one they use, and it'll tell you what address to use. It's a good idea to go ahead and give them a good explanation of what's going on, and they will generally get back to you sometimes within 24 hours. Sometimes it's a week, but most of them will get back to you.
And if I am going to a website where I have not been before, I go down to the bottom of the page, I see who's involved with it, and I'm very interested in where they are located. And depending on what that information is, I might feel free to click on it or comfortable to click on it. But if it goes to Malta or someplace like that, I find another page that I am more comfortable with.
Very good.
Well, one of the things that I've found recently is that a lot of the companies I deal with, Verizon being one of them, that they don't put their phone number or their email or their site mail on their pages when they come up when you look for them on the internet. And so it gets to be a real challenge to actually find somebody you can talk to and register your question. They'll give you a chance to chat, but they won't give you a chance to really talk to them. And so you go through agent after agent, because in the end, one agent will tell you he's got to send you to somebody else, who will tell you he's got to send you to somebody else. Before you know it, you're on there for an hour and a half, and you still don't have your problem resolved.
What's the name of that website you can go to? And they have listed, like if you want to call any of the 3 credit bureaus, they have a different phone number that somebody will immediately answer the phone.
There's a
But-
website called Get Human.
Thank you. Get Human. Thank you so much. And
Yeah, I
I
think-
would go there and put in the company name if there's nothing on the page and see if anything comes up, just for grins.
I think that's a
Go
great
ahead,
idea.
yes.
Thanks.
I like that. Thank you.
And then
And I
don't
think we're
forget to
just
go to
about-
Have I Been Pwned and check out to see if your social security number or your email, whatever, has been absconded with by somebody. It's always very interested to check, and you go, oh my gosh.
Okay,
Can I ask
thank
one
you
more
very much.
question,
The
Jim?
half hour went by quickly.
Okay.
And just to recap, I will try to do a short summary for the next monitor, which would be the March monitor. And Huey's going to go through some announcements. And just for myself, I'm not stepping on your toes, Huey. I know you're probably covered anyway, but I got 2 basic Windows classes coming up in February 11th and February 25th on Zoom. And to register, please just send me an email. My email address is in the monitor and on the website and everywhere else. And I'll turn it back over to Huey to go through his other announcements of what's coming up. Thank you for your time, everybody.